Welcome to Everything Guitar episode 12. I'm Ben France, your host of this weekly deep dive into everything guitar related. If you're new to the channel in the series, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below and maybe ring the bell for notifications so you can get notified when new videos come out. Also, if you do find this particular video to be helpful, useful, entertaining, fun, funny, any or all of the above, go ahead and give me a thumbs up on this video. So let's go ahead and dive into episode 12, starting with the news. Starting out this week in the news, I thought we'd highlight an upcoming release from Orianthi, that awesome Australian guitarist and force within the guitar world. If we jump over to the screen here, we'll see that it says Orianthi announces her first album in 7 years and shares her first single, Sinner's Hymn. Oh, the album is slated for a November 6th release. There is a link here for the video to Sinner's Hymn, and I'll put the link down in the description below. However, for copyright purposes, I do not want to play that video because I don't want to risk getting a copyright strike or this video getting blocked for playing music that I don't own and I don't license. So make sure you click through the link to check out the video. But reading further on here on the screen, it says she spoke on the process of creating O alongside producer Marty Fredrickson, explaining that the pair chose to keep things, quote, pretty raw and not overly thought out. Marty and I wanted to create a unique sound and vibe with every track, and we experimented a lot with synths and different guitar tones, she said. Lyrically, a lot of this record comes from life experiences and other people's stories. It's going to be so fun to play these songs live. Leading up to the album's release, Orianthi announced a live stream show to take place at the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood, California on 19th of September. The album also marks her first release for Frontiers Music, a rock-centric label based in Naples, Italy. Said label president Serafino Perugino, I probably mispronounced that horribly, I apologize for that. On the partnership with the Australian guitarist, we are absolutely honored to have Orianthi on the label. Ever since we first heard talk that she was working on new music, we knew we had to be involved. The full track list for O is listed below, so it looks like it's a 10-song album that's going to be coming out in early November, according to the info up here, November the 6th. Like I said, if you want to check out that single for Sinner's Hymn, which is just a banging, awesome rock tune, go ahead and click through the link below for that. Let's go ahead and take a look at a new product as well. This week we are looking at the Spruce Effects Saguaro Americana Series fuzz pedal. So we'll jump over to the screen here, and you'll see that they describe this pedal as being articulate, refined, and well-balanced. It's a germanium-based monster. Now, Spruce Effects, if you're not familiar with them, they're a smaller boutique pedal manufacturer based out of California here in the United States. And a lot of the pedals are hand-wired and hand-assembled. So very, very boutique, a little bit higher priced. This pedal retails for around $300, but some very insanely good quality and insanely well-built effects available through Spruce Effects. So let's read a little bit more on the Saguaros here. It says that the most commonly recognizable image associated with the American desert is arguably the saguaro cactus. These incredible plants can grow as tall as 75 feet and represent the power of the desert ecosystem in the American West. The desert is often misunderstood and seemingly lifeless. Like Saguaros the pedal, the Saguaro National Park is teeming with life, nuance, and incredible interaction on a daily basis. So, jumping down to some of the specs on it, it says that it uses Switchcraft and Lumberg jacks, DeMont soft touch mechanical switches, 4 new old stock germanium transistors, a new old stock audio quality grade capacitors, and military spec metal film resistors, along with silver coated Teflon wire, and it's hand wired and assembled in California. So, like I said before, pretty nice boutique, very well put together pedals. You'll also see on the screen here that it comes with this very cool aluminum lunchbox or tin lunchbox carry case for it, along with some product art and a certificate of authenticity and so on. Now, one thing you'll also notice when you look at the page here, if we scroll down, you'll see that it says that it is sold out. This is part of their Americana series of pedals, and the Americana series is something they've started this year, where they're releasing one pedal at a time periodically, and those pedals are run in very limited batches. They're doing one pedal, then they move on to the next model, then on to the next model, and then once they get through the whole model run, they will start doing a second batch of pedals. So, this pedal, the Saguaros, sold out almost immediately. Pardon me while I grab a drink of coffee here. And as you'll hear in a little bit of the product going over, we're going to watch part of, that's not really a surprise that that's the case. So I'll put the link down below to the Spruce Effects homepage and to this specific pedal page. You can check it out. But now let's jump over to a demo of this pedal done by Ryan from Demos in the Dark. If you're not familiar with his page, he does some incredibly cool effect pedal, guitar pedal, those type of effects, reviews and demos. And like it says, Demos in the Dark. So they're usually in kind of a cool, very moody looking setting. So let's take a little bit of a listen to some of the sounds from the Saguaros.
That this little channel has adopted. We will be taking a look at another Americana release from Spruce Effects. Tonight it's the Saguaros.
And I'm just going to pause that for just a minute. Let's take a look at that on the screen. Look at the workmanship of that pedal. Is that not a thing of beauty? Just those, how all the capacitors are just perfectly aligned and wired in there in a row. How the resistors are the same way, how the pots are the same way, how it's all hand wired together. That is absolutely gorgeous, and it's numbered as well as far as the pedal in sequence. So while there are a lot of cool pedals out there, don't expect to see that type of craftsmanship if you open up your $50 Guitar Center special fuzz pedal that you bought over the weekend. You're definitely going to pay for that level of craftsmanship, but it is going to pay dividends to you in the sound and in the lifetime of the pedal. So let's kick it back on here. So we're going to just call that good for Ryan's demo on the Spruce Effects Saguaros fuzz pedal. Definitely check them out. Check out some of their standard range as well, because they make some awesome pedals, whether or not it's part of the Americana series or just some of their standard range of pedals. Some things that are not your common off-the-shelf type of sound, but are some incredibly beautiful, incredibly boutique-y, specialized type of sounds that I think we all, being guitar players, love having, so we can get a little more of our own individual tone. Alright, so this week on the mini guitar lesson, I thought we would continue our exploration of chords and chord shapes, different chord voicings, this week by looking at those elusive creatures, sus chords. You may know how to play some of these chords. You may also have even seen these in tablatures or in written music, but you may not know exactly what it means. Have you ever seen something that says something like C sus, or C sus4, or C sus2? That's what we're going to cover today. So what does a sus chord mean? Let me turn down the volume on the RG here. What a sus chord means basically is that you're taking your third, which is kind of your tonal center of your chord. It's not your root, but it's what gives it its flavor of major and minor. And you're replacing that with one of a couple different options or a couple of different notes. So now, if you've viewed the previous Everything Guitar videos and or some of the mini lessons that I post individually, you'll know what I mean by a third. I'll go ahead and put a link up here to the Building Major Triads episode. That way you can get a little bit more of an idea of what a third is and what a triad is, so it'll make a little bit more sense when we're talking about getting rid of the third today. So let's start out by taking a look at a C chord. A C major chord we build this way. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Is built with the notes C, E, G, and then we've got an octave C higher and an octave E higher. So that is our C major chord. Now in that chord, our third is going to be the third note in the scale. If C is our roots, our 1, then we start counting up. We covered this last week when we were talking about some additional chord theory as well. If our C is our root, is our 1, then we need to go up the alphabet to find our third. So D would be our 2. We're going straight to the alphabet. And E would be our 3. So our E is this guy, our middle finger, 2nd fret on the 4th string. So that's our third. We've got our root C, our third, and our 5th G. Root, 3, 5, C, E, G. So to make this a suspended chord, what we do is we get rid of that third, that E, and we're going to replace it with one of two different things. There's a sus2 chord, which isn't as common, meaning that we replace our third, or our E, with a 2, or whatever the second is in this key. So in this case, remember we just said C is root, that's 1. So the next one up alphabetically, the 2 would be a D. So to make a C sus2, we take that E, our third, and and we lift that middle finger and play the open D string, which is giving us our second. So a C sus2 then is going to sound like this. Just playing the triad, the three notes would be that C, D, G. And we add in that octave there. So that's a C sus2. We're replacing our third with a second. There's also what's called a sus4 chord, which, as you may guess, means we're taking our third and we're replacing it with the fourth. So remember, once again, on our building chords knowledge, if C is our first or our one, D is our two or our second, as we just learned, E is our three or our third, so F would be our four or our fourth. So since we're in C, and I did this one specifically to keep it easy, our fourth would be an F. So what we would do is we take our second fret middle finger, which is that guy, and we would raise it 1/2 a step or 1 fret to get an F. So then that means our chord becomes this guy. C, F, G, and then C octave. And we could bar down the first fret on this first string to get another F an octave higher, so then we would have a chord, I'm going to change my fingering like this. So C sus4, C, and C sus2. You hear that tonality there where we got that dun, 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 dun. Just give us a little bit different flavor. C major is kind of a happy sounding chord. Put that sus2 in there, makes it sound a little bit pensive. Still sounds kind of happy, but a little bit different kind of happy. And we put that sus4 in there, that F. Three different tonalities, very easy to modify that chord to give us something different, something unique and unusual. So let's take a look now at another example for that. Let's take a look at G. So a G chord, as you may recall, if you don't, you can go all the way back to, I believe it was episode, let's see, I believe it's episode 4 of Everything Guitar. I'll put the link up here once again. A G chord, remember, is made, the G major triad is made of a G, a B, and a D. Our G, 3rd fret, 6th string, middle finger. A B, 5th fret, 2nd string, 1st finger. D, 4th string, open, no fingers. And then we just start repeating. So we've got a B then, our open 3rd string. We've got a G, our open 3rd string. We've got a B, our open 2nd string. And then we've got pinky, 3rd fret, 1st string, and octave G. So that's our standard G major. Our triad, once again, 1, 3, 5 is G, B, and D. So taking what we just learned with the C major and extrapolating that, we would need to find our third, and to make it a sus2, we need to lower it down to the next note, down to the second note in sequence, correct? So where do we say our third was? If G's our first, we'd have A would be 2, B would be our 3. So where's our B? That's our 2nd fret, 5th string, our 1st finger there. So if we want to make that a sus2, we lift that 1st finger. Hear the difference there? And then to do a sus4, same thing we just did with our C, we need to take our 3rd, our B, and we need to raise it up to our 4th, which in this case would be a C. So, the easy way to play that, how I was playing it in the intro, you can do it a couple different ways. You can just slide up that 2nd finger from fret 2 to fret 3, play it like this. you may recognize those chords from that intro I was playing at the start of this video. That's how you can start using sus chords to build some movement and some interest into your chord progressions and into your songs without having to do a huge amount of movement or without having to go crazy and throw chords in that are out of the key or jumping all over the fretboard. Although that's cool, that's a little more advanced. So let's take a look at that piece I was playing right at the intro. We're starting out with a G major. I've got it fretted a little different. I have middle finger on the second fret of the fifth string, ring finger on the third fret of the sixth string, and pinky down on the third fret of the first string again. So that gives us our G major. So then I was going up from a G major to a G sus4, so I'm sliding up that second finger, and I'm also taking this open B string, second string, and I'm fretting fret number 1 with my index finger, which is a C, so that gives us an octave of our fourth. So we're going G major, G sus4. Then we've got D sus4, which is our D major, only instead of having the F sharp for our third, we have a G for our third. So D sus4, D, or D major. Remember, we learned a long time ago, if we just call it by its root note, that means it's a major chord. So if we were playing a D minor, we'd call it D minor. So D sus4, D, D sus2, opening up that first string to be an open E, so it's our second in the scale, then back to D, and then back down to G major, G sus4. sus4, D, then back to G major, G sus4. Then there was this change where I went to C, so what I did is I walked up the root note, C, C sus4, then back to G, G sus4, then back to D sus4, D, sus4, G. So I encourage you to play around with that idea, and it doesn't just have to be obviously those two chords or those three chords. Any chord is made up, a major chord is made up of a root, a third, and a fifth. So to make it into a suspended chord or a sus chord, what you're doing, what the sus means, I should have covered that earlier a few minutes ago, means that you're suspending the third. And if it just says sus, if it says like C sus, usually the common vernacular means that you're using a sus4. So if you see C sus with now a number on it, that usually means you're doing a sus4. So you're adding in that F into a C chord. If you see sus2, it means you're adding in your second instead of your third. So for that C, you're getting rid of that E and you're replacing it with your second or your D. So just real quick review to help out, remembering that if you haven't seen the previous episodes of Everything Guitar or the mini lessons. Our notes in the scale start out with our root being the 1, and they climb up from there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then they repeat. Because there are 7 notes in Western music, not including sharps or flats. So if we're in C, C would be our 1, D would be our 2, E would be our 3, F would be our 4, G would be our 5, A would be our 6, B would be our 7. Same thing in G. G would be 1, A would be 2, B would be 3, C would be 4, D would be 5, E would be 6, and F would be 7. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully you incorporate some sus chords in your playing and in your chord progression just to give it a little more movement and a little more interest. Make sure to tune in next week where we continue to dive further into chord theory, and we'll look at some extended chords next week where we start adding some upper voicings. These may be things you've seen in print, although you may not know what they are, including things that say stuff like C add 9 or C 11 or C add 13 or something like that. That may sound a little weird because we just talked about there's 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, A through G. So what in the world is a 13? Tune in next week and you'll find out. So that's it for this week's Everything Guitar. I hope you found this episode to be useful, fun, funny, entertaining, any or all of the above. Once again, I'd encourage you to go ahead and click the subscribe button down below and ring the bell for notifications so you'll be notified when new videos do come out. In addition to everything guitar, there's a lot of other guitar and general music related content that I put out on this channel, and more content is going to be coming as it progresses down the road. Also, as I said earlier, if you did find this video to be helpful, feel free to go ahead and give me a thumbs up. That would be awesome as well. And if you want to share the video, if you think you have a friend or someone like that would appreciate this content, maybe someone who's just learning to play guitar, you may know some of this theory yourself already, but maybe you've got a friend, maybe you've got a kid or something like that that's just learning to play guitar, share the content with them. I would be happy to do everything I can to help anybody learn how to play this wonderful instrument that's been my constant companion for much longer than I care to admit. Let's just say for a large majority of my life. So take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week on Everything Guitar.